Let's move on to the LPL. The schedule has been released, Emily. I love the idea that Worlds 2019 versus Worlds 2018 winners starts things off. What do you make of the fact that now we get matches every single day of the week?
I mean, we're already getting matches 6 days a week, so why not add the extra day? The thing that I think I always want to reiterate with the LPL is that League of Legends over there is massive. Like, it's a regular traditional sports league that people know about, is, incredibly lucrative, has major organizations and sponsors and stuff. And yeah, it's every day. If there's one thing the LPL knows what to do, it's how to create that initial hype matchup, right? They've always been really good at making sure that it's, a summer finals rematch or some sort of really, really hype game to kick off the split. And when I posted the schedule off of their Weibo account, everyone was just like, yes, like FPX, IG, let's go. This is super exciting. And then they're like, wow, LPL is 7 days a week. So I'll be watching all of it. I don't know how many people will be, but I do think it's also nice because if maybe you haven't been a fan of the LPL in the past and you're looking to get into it because it has, the largest player base, the largest fan base, the biggest teams in the world, you might look at the schedule and now you can pick out a game or two that you might want to watch a week, and it might be a little bit easier for you now that the games are spread out. Remember that LPL actually has 17 teams, so they are the largest league. It makes sense that they would have to expand their schedule just so they're not stacking so many games. Another thing to point out is that the LPL has multiple venues too, so sometimes games will overlap because they'll be playing at 2 different venues and they'll have set start times.
Yeah, it's becoming feels like NBA-esque in China for League of Legends in a way that I think is very positive, right? Because, so there are sports that are massive in China, but esports is such an ingrained into their culture in a way that it is not in other countries, maybe sans Korea from that generalization. Mm-hmm. But I do think that this is a positive move, and I think it is because it's regionalized and it makes sense to do it the way they're doing it. I don't know. I think that the LPL is the push forward of what one day we can hope that the LCS and the LEC become similar. I don't want to say exact because every country and region has their own sort of flavor of sauce that they would like, and I think that's a smart move by Riot not to try to do what they used to do, which was across the board make everything the same. Because I don't think that works, right? Like a Chinese fan and a European fan probably consume content differently, consume matches differently, have different things they do outside of watching and playing video games from a social aspect, right? You got to take all those things into consideration, but I do think if you're looking at the most advanced league in all of League of Legends esports, it is the LPL from a business perspective, and I think it is a good path forward, paving the way for LCS and LEC.
Emily, if and when more teams enter the LEC and LCS, do you envision a situation where both of those leagues could have 7-day-a-week schedules?
So, Arda, it's funny you should ask that because LCS is undergoing some changes as well this year, including mixing some of their academy games into the broadcast and also broadcasting 2 LCS games on Monday night. So they're trying to move into kind of, in Commissioner Chris Greeley's words, a Monday Night Football kind of vibe for their Monday night games where they take 2 headlining matchups and they're doing maybe some sort of special audience thing around those days. It's not going to be a ticketed event. They're going to do some different things with maybe college nights or high school nights and try to get a new fresh audience in for those games. But they are testing that out this year. So the LCS is already expanding. And I think you will see, last year we saw the LEC redo their playoff format and really take a look at how they wanted to present their broadcast. I think this year the LCS, there was that kind of meme where they did we cut out the EU from the LCS, but then they didn't really do a lot that was dramatically different from previous broadcasts. And people were kind of comparing it to the LEC broadcast, and they're like, this is kind of getting stale. China has its own thing, LCK has its own thing. Why is LCS kind of stagnant? And so this year they did take that under consideration, and now they're trying out new things with their broadcast, including Monday night games, including tagging in some of the Academy games, which they started last year already, to try to get people more interested in Academy. So I'm actually really looking forward to it. I like the changes that they've made, and I'm really excited to see, especially if it creates more interest in NA Academy and NA development, because that's kind of been, I know Jacob wrote an article about it. I wrote a giant feature on it. We've all been talking about how to develop domestic talent in NA, and that's been something that they've also been considering, and something that, the LPL, for example, doesn't have a problem with, because they just have this massive player base and this massive secondary league. But yeah, those are kind of some of the things behind the broadcast changes. Obviously, my article's already out. My interview with Chris Greeley, where he talks about the changes. But yeah, so look forward to that, because LCS actually is changing its broadcast.
So you got to give Riot credit here, right? Because NA and Academy and developing NA talent is always a hot topic, right? You guys have written about it. There's videos out there ad nauseum about this topic, right? But this is, if even a small step, a good step in the right direction. Adding Academy games and spotlight and telling stories about Academy players on broadcasts like these.
Yes, and I do want to add that I want to give credit to Riot, but I also want to give credit to a certain team. There is one team in the league that had a lot to do with these changes, as I understand in some of my original reporting, and that is Golden Guardians, which is obviously owned by the Golden State Warriors. So they have a lot of people in their ecosystem who work on basketball and have sports perspective. Obviously the Warriors, all of their ownership group, the man that manages their esports ventures is the son of the owner of the Golden State Warriors, Kirk Lacob. His father is Joe Lacob, the main owner of the Warriors. These people have ideas, and they brought them to Riot somewhere throughout the past season and sort of pitched a bunch of different ones, and other teams got involved. I know that I heard that Parth from Team Solo Mid was present in some of these conversations too, of pitching these things, because he wanted to sort of be involved and give some feedback as well. But I do think a lot of the people involved with Golden Guardians, as I understand, were very front and center to Riot about making some of these changes. So credit to Golden Guardians is due, right? And I think this is the benefit of having some sports ownership perspective in your league, particularly a team that is a multi-time NBA champion, has tech people that are tech and investment people who own that basketball franchise and are involved. Some unique perspective. So yeah, I think generally, like I said earlier, I think that each league is very different. Each league has sort of what it needs to make it work, right? This is why we see various different schedules. And ideally, I think what Riot wants to move towards is the fact that you can watch League of Legends any given day of the week around the world, in English or any language, right? That we don't see a lot of investment in multi-language broadcast yet for the LCS. There are a few channels that do it, but I think eventually that's the point they want to reach, is that you have daily League of Legends esports programming. Somebody said this to me the other day. An executive involved in one of the leagues said to me the other day that he's been involved for a really long time, said to me that he feels that there has been a big shift at Riot in the past 2 years, particularly under CEO Nicolas Laurent, who is he's been there 2 years now in his position, that there's been a big shift from esports as a marketing arm to esports is now a sport for them internally at Riot, and that there's a lot of shift from that, right? So it used to be that they had unlimited budget and they could go spend whatever the hell they wanted on esports because people were buying skins, revenues was coming in, people were watching Worlds, and now it's shifted to, we want you to make money, we don't want you to suck the life out of it. And sorry, there are some leagues, hello Overwatch League, that do that a little bit, in my opinion, too much. But I think that generally the feeling at Riot is we want to make these real sports leagues that do make revenues eventually, that do, send return on investment. Because look, 2016 was 2015 and 16 were the big years of boom investment. If you're giving people 35 years to figure it out, this is the step forward, right? You've got to make those step forwards around the world. I think we're coming up on milestones for people to check in on their businesses, and I think that Riot is cognizant of that and trying to make League a good investment.
That is why I'm very excited about Riot Riot's future titles and how they become esports as well. And this paradigm shift is absolutely necessary. I'm sure we will dive into that and a lot more, including previewing all 4 major League of Legends leagues, LCS, LEC, LCK, and LPL, on our kickoff show Saturday, January 11th, right here, twitch.tv/ESPN Esports, live 7 p.m. Eastern.